Hello everyone, and we are live yet again, and this is going to be one of my authors chats of the week. And as always, I'm going to keep my eye out for my co-host and see when she logs in. And I've actually talked with her before, but last time we had a little bit of technical some issues cropping up, so hopefully this time will be a little better and we can talk a little longer. But see whenever she goes live, and then I can invite her into the chat. But how's everybody's evening going? Or afternoon, I guess, depending on where you are, or late night, depending again. I am East Coast, so it is getting to be the evening, nighttime for us. Hello, hello! How are you doing? Yeah, it's been just got off work. See? That's kind of where I'm at the moment as well. So I'll just keep my eye out for my co-host, and we shall see when she jumps on. But yeah, how's everybody's week going? I've been working on trying to figure out how to create a shop for my website. And I've been selling author's copies through Etsy for a while now, but I'm hoping she'll jump back on. But, oh, there she is. Well, let me invite her. There we go. Boop. I'm hoping to have it so I can actually sell types, and that'll also allow me to sell other things that are bookish, because I've been creating some fun things like my D&D kits of minis based off one of my books, and also point people in the direction of the augmented reality game based off that, actually, the Legit Chronicles. And as I build up some of my bookish stuff that are kind of fun additives, like character art and all that kind of stuff, see if I can go from there and have one-stop shop. Let's see if she sees. Oh yeah, because she's on the West Coast, so the opposite side.
There we go.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Good. How's your day? Because this will be afternoon, evening, early evening for you.
Yeah, it's 4 p.m. over here, so
yeah, I can still see the
late
sun out.
afternoon-ish.
Hello, Derek. But yeah, so I guess kind of what we did a little bit last time. I'll let you reintroduce yourself, because you never know who's on, and we'll talk about your book. And I see Derek knows you too.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, I'm Ia Lee. I'm a YA fantasy author, and my debut novel was Realm of Hope, which is an action-packed fantasy epic that takes a lot of video game, anime, and D&D influence. So some of you may know me from TikTok. If not, nice to meet you.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, no, I know. We were touching on the fact last time we talked about how some of your passions, including D&D and other games, kind of interwove into your book series. Well, it's the first book of a series, correct?
Yes, so first book of a trilogy, and there's several other planned trilogies who all take place in the same universe but different time periods. So there's like a whole MCU type of situation going on with a connected universe but all these different stories.
I love that. So I have a question for you, and where can I find the names of the book? Well, where do you sell your book? Let's go off, because yours is Realm of Hope. So where do you sell your book? Let's go off
Yes,
of that.
so it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and then most retailers, since I had it set up through Ingram Spark. So I've seen it like on Target before, and it's actually at a local bookstore that's
move is to put my books onto Ingram Spark, so I can be, at the very least, the print versions, so they can potentially be in bookshelves and be found on Barnes and Noble and some other places like you're mentioning. But right now I'm exclusive on Amazon, so all my books are found through Amazon, and I sell them through Etsy thank you for my help. Through Etsy for signed copies right now, and I'm hoping to develop a shop. I was mentioning this before you jumped on, that my goal, and I've been trying to work on it for the last few days, is put a shop directly onto and integrate it on my author website, which is far more complicated than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my signed copies are actually available through my website, which, yeah, I have it hosted through Squarespace, so it makes it a bit easier, I think.
I love that. Yeah, it's one of those you looking in retrospect. I go through Wix, and it's very functional and easy to do for like just a normal base website. But trying to do the shop functions, it's like a whole new animal. And I'm teaching myself how to do things, and I'm pressing buttons, not sure what's going on. So it'll probably be in like a beta shop mode for a while.
Yeah, that's fair. Etsy's super cool though. I've seen some other authors doing that and it's so cute. It's just like, yeah, having your own little shop and everything. And yeah, you're a creator. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so think of Realm of Hope. If you decided to go beyond the books and expand into other bookish things, what kind of things would you like to see that would kind of fit in with your book's vibe and the universe you're building? I've seen people do like everything from necklaces to specially sent candles to, of course, character art. So have you ever
Yeah,
thought
so
about that?
I've had plenty of character art commissioned. I've had art commissioned of like basically every single member of the main cast at least once. I like supporting fellow like authors and artists as well. And yeah, I love commissioning different artists to get artwork and things like that. And one that I actually commissioned recently does game art. So my most
Ooh.
recent art piece that I commissioned is it kind of gives off video game vibes itself, which really helps seal the deal that hey, this book it has a lot of video game vibes. But
Love that.
yeah, I currently have bookmarks and enamel pins and little keychains that have like a little version of my book like attached to the keychain. I'm hoping to get stickers at some point, but candles sound really interesting. That'd be super
Yeah.
cool to have like a character like for each candle because I love candles. I'm obsessed with them. I have way too many of them.
See, the problem with me and candles, I love the idea of them, but I have not. I always forget to use them. And so
Oh
I just put
yeah.
them up and they're always like on displays. And then every so often my fiance will like light one. I was like, oh, I forgot that's what you do with a candle. It just doesn't just sit there. You can actually use it.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
but yeah, so that's kind of cool. I need to then talk to you about like figuring out the keychains and the pins and everything. 'Cause I feel like I am late in the game for the bookish merch stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's super fun and yeah, it's really exciting seeing what people can do with their merch. Like I've seen people do like pens and like little like art prints and stuff, and I'd love to do posters and everything. Like once I start attending more like book conventions and whatnot, I think it'd be super cool.
Oh yeah, if you had a poster, would you want it to be like a giant size of your cover without maybe some of the words, or something completely new?
I think I'd have a poster of actually my latest art piece that I commissioned because it does scream video game, and I was actually gonna get like a poster of it and actually have it like hung up somewhere in my apartment.
That would be neat. Yes, I love that. I love that. That's another thing that I feel like once it's all that kind of interesting budgeting thing. How much are you going to put in, invest in your author gig, and how much you're getting out of it? And so I'm trying to find that balance because I would love to be able to create character art for all these characters and do that, make the posters, all that, but everything costs money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to your book series, I know you were mentioning you're doing this kind of, as you said, kind of the MC universe, building out for this long-term series that are all, with characters that interconnecting and their various stories and arcs. So how much of that have you plotted out? That sounds like very intricate.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, the whole universe that I've had set up and everything, they were all written in the form of screenplays for video games for years now. So yeah, child me was like, hey, I want to make video games, and then I wrote these stories designed for those type of games in the form of a screenplay. So I had everything all kind of planned out and whatnot, and then by the time I hit college, I was like, hey, maybe this is a little ambitious for a video game. And maybe for now, I'll start a bit smaller and write books and
Mhm.
whatnot, since it's a little hard to get like studios and everything to make a video game and everything. So I decided to adapt all those screenplays into individual books and their trilogies. So it's all like been planned out for a while now and outlined. Of course, there's been some changes throughout the years. Like some ideas that I had as a kid are not gonna work now. I guess as someone who's grown as an author and writer, I'm like, this will not work, or this little plot point would not work. So yeah, but basically, like a lot of the outlines are all pretty much there. So it's fun to be able to reference characters and some little storylines in the books that I already have written and books that I have to be published at some point soon.
Ah, that's kind of cool. So yeah, like but that's so much, prep work. I wish I did more prep work earlier on with, the creating stories, because I kind of have this go in the flow thing where I'm in that back of my head for the series. I know where I want to go. I know the major plot points. I know a lot of that, but it's still sometimes I have those stumbling blocks. So it sounds like you have it set. You have it fully plotted out. You have your everything. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
You're
for
prepared.
sure. Yeah. Some things had to be changed a bit because some things in a screenplay for like of any sorts, video game or not, would not work as well for a book and vice versa. Like some
Hmm.
plot points had to get changed a bit just to fit like the plot structure for a book.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was definitely one of the hardest parts. And transitioning from more of a screenwriter to an author was also a bit of a challenge when I started off with my debut novel.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. So, but that's cool. That is cool. I mean, I think I came to realizing it may need to work a little bit more on plotting things out in a little more depth, because what I kind of for the past couple weeks what got myself into this little hole where I was writing and I know where I was supposed to go and I've gotten the majority of the book down, but then I got to the point where I didn't know how to get my characters from A to, or where F to Z or
Yeah.
wherever I was. And I kind of was like fumbling around for a while. And I think that kind of almost put me into a mode of, I wouldn't say writer's block, but I think I was like talking myself out of it because I knew where I wanted to go. But because I couldn't figure out how to plug in the empty space, I kind of was
Right.
making excuses. And so I think that made me think about it. I was like, I probably need to plot a little bit more
Yeah,
instead of,
I totally get that. Even though I have things like plotted and everything, I consider myself more of a plantser that rather than a pantser and a plotter. Like I feel like I set up the plot and everything, but then sometimes things just go completely different directions because sometimes my characters have a mind of their own.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like planned out, but then something might change along the way if I get like better ideas or something that might work better. So yeah, I
Yeah,
totally get that.
yeah. Yeah, no, I did. I think that's another thing is we learn as we go. So I'm learning my weak points, and that was a weak point where I'm like, okay, for the most part, I've never had this, and I've written a number of books, but never had it kind of come out that way where it was just for the last couple weeks, I just really had to motivate myself to sit down, and I was like, okay, told myself today I'm not actually moving the story along. What I need to do is figure out the story.
Yeah, for sure.
Fill that hole because I know where it needs to end. I just don't know what to do. And just sitting down, even for, I think it was like, I sat down for like an hour, 45 minutes, and finally it just clicked. And it just was so easy of me going, here's the points, here's what I'm doing. And finally the story is moving.
Yeah, for sure.
A while. Have you ever had like I don't know, like I said, I don't know if I would term what I've dealt with was true writer's block, but have you ever had a moment where it kind of gives you a big hiccup and you're just like, oh no?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know
there
how
are
to
times
solve
where I'm just like, okay, I need to take a break from this manuscript and then think about it some more and then just come back with a fresh mind and fresh pair of eyes.
it. Yeah, yeah. But that's true. And I do think that, you know, when I hear people who do deal with writer's block, one of the things that sounds like helps is, like you said, with going, putting it to bed for a little bit and then coming back, as you said, with fresh eyes. So that's nice. That is very nice. So as you're going, so you have your first book out. How far along the way are you with your second book? You already know the story. So have you started the writing process of that book, or are you in the big promotion still, like, giving your first book a lot of love and attention right now?
So right now, my second book, like the first drafts are finished. I'm currently waiting on beta reader feedback, and one of my betas actually just finished, so I'll be going over that feedback soon. So yeah, I haven't been working too much on that book since I've been waiting for feedback. In the meantime, I have been working on a short story prequel that I want to have free for newsletter subscribers
Mhm.
that yeah, will take the I guess, be from a perspective of different characters from the main cast. So I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And I have a question that I think is heading toward you, but was asking, how can someone become a beta reader?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, all of my beta
I guess
readers,
you
I've
accept them. Yeah, accept new beta readers, I guess is one thing.
yeah, I guess one thing that's a little tricky is that my book is a sequel, so it is a little hard to gauge like who has read my first book
Hmm.
as well and getting the feedback for that and whatnot. All my betas that I've selected are people that have beta read for my first book,
Hmm.
plus one author friend. So yeah, I just want to keep the number like closer to like a handful since it's easier to keep track of feedback that way, and also it's easier to get timelines set that way.
No, and that is a good point. I do think less is more when it comes to betas because everybody's going to have their own unique opinion. And if you have too many people talking, you're going to hear opposites opinions, and you'll have to kind of muddle for it. But a different thing is a different approach is arc readers. I don't know if you do arc readers. I do, and I have open calls actually right now since I haven't closed my group for people who want to be an arc reader, which is different. They're not doing the critiquing part. They're there just to get a free book in the hopes that you'll leave an honest review. And so I constantly will open up my arc. I think it's still open right now on my link, and have people come and join in case people want to read my books. But like you said, it gets a little sticky if it's further down the series. At the moment, I've allowed ARCs to read through the series because why not? Give me a
Yeah, for
review for
sure.
one
I
where
was
it's
considering doing that. I had arcs for my first book, but again, if I was going to have new arcs for this second book, I have to make sure that they've at least read the first book,
Mhm.
unless they want to arc for that as well.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of deciding what I want to do. I know I've had some readers and whatnot volunteering to arc and things like that, and I've had previous arcs willing to also be arc readers for the second book, but I guess right now that's not something for me to really be worrying about since I'm still kind of in the revision stages. That's kind of like a later thing for author me
Yeah.
to worry about.
Yeah. And
But yeah.
I mean, for me, it's kind of, you have to find that sweet spot where you
Yeah.
are ready to get arcs, but you always want to prepare earlier because when you're trying to promote the fact that you have an arc coming, to get them in the time and manner so then they have time to read it before you release the book. And so it is one of those things, just like everything, you have to learn what works for you and your speed and what you expect.
Yeah.
Because I've been at it for a number of years and I'm still trying to figure out what it's the best way.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think this time around will be easier than my first book because I guess as like a debut author, it's kind of like I don't know what I'm doing. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like trial and error there. But like the second time around, it's definitely less nerve-wracking and it's definitely an easier process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good because yeah, I 100% agree. For me, I will tell people from the time that I came up with the idea of my first book, My Stars Claws, and the time I published it, it was 10 years. Now, 4 years was college, and there was a lot of learning, stumbling, floundering on that whole process. but now I'm releasing multiple things a year. So my process has sped up a lot just because have learned, I know what to do. I have the method. I come up with a lot of um, timelines. I love timelines of like
Yeah, for
how many
sure.
weeks out this is what I need to be doing and that kind of thing, just to try to make sure I stay on it. Now I still stumble and forget things. For instance, I'm working, gearing up to send my next novella for my Vikings fantasy series to my editor, and I was like, okay, when I get it back, I'm going to start thinking about arcs and everything. And then I totally forgot that I had yet to get the cover.
Oh no, yeah.
So it was stuff like that. I was like, oh, I should get a cover now so I can start promoting the fact that there's this book coming out. So it's all, there's so much things you have to like be thinking about in the back.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I figured since I have a bit of downtime right now, I actually had my cover commission request set up and everything with my cover artist for my second book, so I'm excited about that.
That is fun. Yeah, I love seeing the cover for the first time. And even if you have to do some tweaks for it, it's still such a fun feeling seeing that because it's like, oh, we're getting real. This is about to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I remember being so excited when I first saw the cover of Realm of Hope, and then the first time I even held a physical copy of it, like in my
Yes.
hands. It was definitely so surreal.
Yes, like yeah, because I got a physical proof because I mean some people just skip that. I think that's very smart to do, but even with
Yeah,
the proof and just holding it, it was just like it's happening. It's happening. It did take me then another handful of years to figure out the marketing side of thing because I didn't. Because I don't know if I told you this last time, but I just released the book and expected everybody to find it.
oh yeah.
Which doesn't actually happen. Well, it may make for someone, but it didn't happen for me. So the marketing, that's what I'm still trying to figure out. I had a
Yeah.
comment pop up on my side saying the guy was interested in potentially being an ARC reader and or betas for people who are interested, saying that I read super fast. I read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy in a week when I was 10. Now that is fast. I am
That
the
is
slowest.
impressive for sure.
I am the slowest reader, and that's what I feel like at least. So I'm always impressed when people can read at a normal pace.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, do you get a lot of time to read for fun? Because some authors forget to do that because they're so focused on their own books.
Yeah, I guess recently I haven't done a lot of reading for fun because I've been busy reading a lot of indie books because I want to support yeah, indie authors and everything. So actually all books that I've read this year so far and most of last year were indie books. So more of it's yeah, a lot of support and I've also gotten arcs as well. So yeah, it's kind of like I don't know if this is like more casual or more like, hey, I'm trying to support you guys. So yeah, there's more like pressing deadlines and everything because like I don't know, I feel like for reading for fun, you can just finish whenever. But like
That's
when it's arcs involved, it's like, hey, I need to get this done as like whenever I can.
Oh yeah, that is definitely true. For me, I it's one of the reasons why I don't offer my services for ARC readers. I'm a slow reader, and there's the pressure for the deadline, and I already have that enough for my own writing. So I'm not a good ARC reader for someone else. Though I appreciate people who are, and I see a comment popping up, and yes, at talking about my ARCs in particular. So I'm going to pause for 1 second, but yes. I have the ARC sign up and a newsletter sign up. They're both technically newsletter functions, but one is purely for the arcs and one is a general newsletter, which it should offer the arc thing too, but option if you wanted to sign up through that. But let me know or message me personally and I'll try to clear that up with you later. Okay, going back to what we were saying. But yeah, what were we saying? I lost my train of thought there. Arcs. But yeah, having ARC readers I do value, and same thing with the betas or people who use alpha readers. I mean, they're all very important, and they help writers write better. And I love to read for fun, but like you said, it's nice theoretically to read for fun because you can take your time and enjoy it at whatever pace you set. Some people can read a whole book in a day. Other people take, a month and a half to read a book when it's not my own because that's my job.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, when I was in high school, I used to be able to read like a new book every day and stuff. I don't think I have the energy to do that anymore. Yeah, so I feel like I've kind of evolved into being like more of a mood reader now. So like some books I can just get through in a day, some will take me a bit longer. I think it just depends on my mood for sure and
Yeah.
the genre.
Oh yeah, that's true. I do read a lot of dense books. And dense books, if I'm not fully awake and concentrating, then I'm gonna miss something, and that means I have
Yeah.
to read
Yeah, I
something.
totally get that. Yeah, like dense high fantasy books might take me longer because there's a lot of paying attention to like the world, the characters, the
Mhm.
magic system, the lore, and things like that. But like if it's contemporary, like contemporary romance or something, I can definitely get through that a lot faster because there's definitely less that you need to be paying attention to. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to read like a balance of different genres and whatnot too.
Oh, I totally agree. And I'm trying to be better about reading outside my go-to genres. Since I write epic fantasy, I like to read epic fantasy. I also really like ancient epics and sagas, and those are usually my go-to genres, but it's always nice to get challenged to go beyond that. But yeah, no, so let me ask, how dense would you describe your book? Because yours is a fantasy. But how dense do you describe that? Because there's, like you said, there's different levels of that depending.
Yeah, so my book is, for one thing, pretty long. It's like 506 pages, so it's technically not even a novel anymore. It's a fantasy epic. And part of the reason is because of the cast, the magic system, and how big the fantasy world is. There's quite a bit of world building involved because the characters in my story kind of travel around the world to try to solve mysteries behind what is causing the world to fall into darkness, and they're trying to figure out how to prevent that from happening. So there's a lot of details going on and a lot of cast members because I love a big cast that I can work around with, and I love character interaction and different magical powers and stuff like that. So I'd say it's pretty dense. Um, it is quite a bit to follow for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say it's pretty dense.
That's really neat. Yeah, I love epic fantasy. And the funny thing is, I don't know the size you chose for your book because I never thought about this, but a lot of indie authors do the size that's smaller than what I do. And so when we hold up our books, mine might only be it looks like just a little bigger, but then because mine's taller, it's because I fit more words per page, just means less pages. When we talk about word count, all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, yours is big." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm wordy.
Yeah.
I talk a lot." And it reflects in my books.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's entertaining though. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm totally sure it is.
I have a question for you. I think it's for you. It says, does your world building include the history of the places that you write about in your.
Yes, because, well, one thing is I mentioned before that my books all take place in the same universe, but a different time period. And Realm of Hope actually takes place the latest in the timeline. So it's set in the future. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of history sprinkled throughout. Definitely not as much as I'd want because that might be overwhelming for the reader because there's a lot of information that I know, but the reader would not know, and that would be pretty overwhelming. But yes, there's quite a bit of history that's like scattered all throughout the book and behind the world itself.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think when you tease readers a little bit, not enough that they get annoyed, but tease them a little bit, just saying, "Hey, there is more to this than what I'm putting in," and that may
Yeah.
allow you to do another spin-off. I know you're already talking about a couple spin-off series, but and each one may be able to reveal or give you another sneak peek of the depth
Right.
that, as an author, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I often name drop characters, like I'll mention, oh, this character was an important figure in history, or this character in my main cast is the descendant of this powerful figure, and there's a reason why they're mentioned.
Love that.
Some of them will play a major role in in future books to be released, and I know what will happen. So it's nice having a book that takes place the latest in the timeline because it's kind of like it kind of gives you a taste of everything that is to follow if you keep following with my books and whatnot.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah, so let me ask you this. This is an interesting question. I have read a couple no, I guess I can't say series. They're kind of because series with spin-offs, but where the spin-offs are parallel to the original series or they overlap timelines. Are you progressing it in one line? Or are you going to kind of spider web it where some series will be overlapping or paralleling?
I think there's like a little bit of overlap, but at the same time, each planned trilogy that I want to have released in this massive series. Not they're not all in chronological order. So like this so Realm of Hope takes place the latest in the timeline, but then my next planned trilogy is like takes place like the second earliest in the timeline. So it's kind of like scattered based on how I came up with when I came up with the ideas for the story. I thought that would make it kind of interesting, almost like Quentin Tarantino and his style of not putting
Oh yeah.
everything in chronological order. So that's
Oh
up to
yeah.
the reader to piece the puzzles to piece like every bit of the puzzle together.
Yeah, I was about to do a Star Wars reference where the first trilogy is kind of in the middle, and then you have the precursing, and then all of a sudden it jumps. And so it's not, again, in a linear order if you watch it from release date, obviously. But yeah, I think Tarantino was a good choice because definitely watching things like Pulp Fiction, I definitely had to watch that one twice and be like, whoa, let me wrap my head around this.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is Tarantino we're talking about. He's got to do something with this.
Yes, yes. Or um well, I won't spoil. I was going to say something, but it's still relatively there is definitely a sci-fi not sci-fi fantasy series that's out that the first season was jumping around doing back and forth with timelines and you just had to just figure it out like where everybody was in the timeline, which was an interesting thing. But I'm not going to try to spoil that because that's the first season. So
Yeah.
I try not to spoil things. But with that said, I like that. I like that. So I know we talked about it a little bit last time, but because it's a new time, going to your inspirations, which were the video games, the D&D, and all that stuff. So when you're saying they inspired you, how did they specifically influence your style of writing?
Okay, so I'd say that my books are primarily inspired by video games. I mentioned D&D because that's what a lot of people have told me that it gives them D&D vibes, but D&D itself did not quite inspire it since
Mm-hmm.
I never actually played.
Hey,
But I've always wanted to play. I just need to find people around me who will play. But I've been told that I would be good for D&D itself. So disclaimer, yeah, yeah. I guess it takes inspiration from like what I know about D&D itself. But like with video games, I've been playing them my entire life. I used to play, well, I still play a lot of JRPG style of video games where it's very story driven and story focused. So you follow these characters, like this party of characters, and watch them progress through a story, and basically you influence their decisions and everything. And I guess I grew up around a lot of that. And so I was like, hey, what if I write a book that takes it gives off the video game vibes and influence, and because I've never heard of a book with video game influence, especially like a fantasy one, so
mm-hmm.
I wanted to write what I wanted to read. Like I wanted a book like that as a kid, and I grew up with games like Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy and
Yeah.
Fire Emblem, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I mean, I love the game, so I was like, hey, what if this story was in a book instead?
I love that. And
Yeah.
some comment for you saying that one person was recommending that you should potentially look into Steven Erickson because he's doing something similar in his world. His worlds are often based with D&D style, RPG style vibes. So there you go. And like for me, it's like I think I want to two things going forward. One is I have because I've dabbled with D&D, and that's why I don't know if I showed you, but I started developing little miniatures and D&D sub character classes and sheets based off characters of my Portal Fantasy. And so it's kind of fun doing the opposite, where I'm taking my stories and then converting them into a gameplay. And it's also the series that I've been working with a company to turn it into a augmented reality game. So you're taking what you've written and trying to figure out now how to make this a game, which is which is kind of what you did, but the opposite, where it's like you're taking one kind of medium and converting it into another, and it's a lot of fun to kind of do that and see how one thing evolves from something else. But yeah, I would love to write some kind of D&D inspired book series one day. Again, it'll be loosely inspired, loosely, but still,
Yeah.
I like that. I do like those vibes. I like those vibes where you have a party
Yeah.
of characters and they do different
Yeah.
quests and all that kind of stuff. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I definitely say it would be loosely inspired by D&D, but yeah, it's all based on what I know about the game itself. But yeah, so like that and video games and anime and books that I grew up with, like Percy Jackson,
Hmm.
definitely inspired my books and how I write and stuff. Because I guess I'm a sucker for nostalgia, so I love being able to recreate those type of feelings that I felt when I read those books or played those games or watched those shows when I was a kid.
That's fantastic. No, that's true. I mean, because every generation's gonna it's is new, and so
Yeah.
there is those kind of waves of nostalgia because someone who was like, well, I want to bring some of what I loved from my childhood or my fondest memories and share it with the future generations, and I think that's wonderful. I do. And yes, the comment popped up, Harry Potter was my childhood like that, and I'm with you. I grew up with Harry Potter, so the fantastical, and that's why I had to write a world of my versions of wizards and witches,
Yeah.
one of my series, because I was a Potterhead when I was little. Is that a term? Did I just invent
I
a term?
think so. Yeah, I was a Potterhead too. I used to write down the spell names and pretend I'd cast spells with sticks I found in the backyard as a kid.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I know there was like this it was like a ball, but it had like all these like little things like it's one of those bouncy balls, but it was really weird because it had like little spikes off of it that were soft and squishy. Anywho, we collected them and we called it gillyweed after.
Oh wow.
I had a little jar of gilly. Yeah, we were my sister and I were pretty into Harry Potter.
Yeah, no, that sounds super fun.
But it's a fun thing. It's like you never know what's going to spark in a young person's life and inspire their future. And it may not have anything to do with writing. It could be just whatever it is. But somewhere along the line, a child's like, "Oh, whatever you're involved with, this is really cool," and then that reflects as them as an adult. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so when you go with your characters and you said you love a wide cast, how did you develop your characters? Were they inspired by anybody in particular? Did they come just purely out of your own imagination, a combination, or how did you choose your cast of characters?
Yeah, so I think a good chunk of them kind of took they were inspired by a lot of like JRPG archetypes, and then I just messed around with those archetypes and like, hey, let's subvert expectations here and add some more stuff to this character and make them different and more complex. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I take like basically the base archetypes and then just mess around with it to fit what I would write, basically, if that makes sense. And that I'd also like take inspiration from like my favorite characters,
Mm-hmm.
from different shows and books and movies and video games that I've enjoyed as well. And it all kind of comes together. I'd say like I'm pretty character driven. Like the characters always come
Mm-hmm.
first. And sometimes I'll just get ideas also from like real life as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it is cool. Because I'm getting better about my characters, I know my earlier stories, I was definitely action driven, where I had to
Hmm.
like remind myself, I was like, okay, remember to evolve your characters along the way and all that kind of stuff. But it's still those like the basic kind of things you should probably do in a storyline. I have to remind myself periodically because I get so swept up in the action and the movement of the story and the flow that I have to remember, go back to the characters and just make sure you bring them out and make sure they are as real, as tangible, and likable, unlikable as they're supposed to be along
Yeah.
the story. But yeah, and I see a comment about Jungian archetypes. I do remember that. But yeah, I have a tendency to weave in a warrior woman archetype in all my stories because I always love those big, powerful women figures in my stories. Though they're not always the main characters. I'm trying to be better about that.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get that. All of the main characters, well, the main female protagonists in my books are basically these strong female characters because I was like, I really like this, and I always wish we had more of them growing up
Oh
and
yeah.
written the way that I want to write them and have the complexity and have the character arcs and have the journey that they have to go through.
Yeah, cause yeah, when I was that was why I started writing and choosing that kind of focus on my earlier works was because again, like you said, when I was younger, a lot of the big fantasy books are male forward. And it was kind of like, well, what about me?
Yeah.
I need someone that kind of represents myself, and so I always wanted to do that at least to start off with, and then go from there. But yeah, because growing up, when literature didn't have that many, in cinema there was Ripley from Aliens, and that was like my go-to girl. I was like, I love her arc
Yeah.
because it starts with the a normal thing, but then as her arc grows, she becomes a very strong, powerful, independent,
Yeah.
force to be reckoned with in those sci-fi movies.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Definitely an icon.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I see a comment saying, honestly, I feel like women are write better fantasy characters than most men.
Oh.
Well, I'll say we write differently. We definitely do. I was watching someone else on another author here, and he was doing a commentary on which was actually pretty funny. He wrote the same script. One was in a male writer's voice, and another one was in a female writer's voice, and just showing most of it was kind of very much the same, but just the
Mhm.
little ways they describe things or the little points of view that were shifting, even though it was the same character, but it was the voice of a male author versus a female author. And I thought that was kind of neat, a smart way to approach things.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Things to think about.
Yeah, definitely we'll keep that in mind.
So when you write characters with, you write multiple points of view, right?
Yes, I have 4 points of view in Realm of Hope and in the sequel.
You're braver than I, because I've only stuck with one point of view thus far, and so we'll see if that changes going forward. I think it will, but I'm just like, I don't know. So many jumping between heads sounds like a lot.
It's definitely hard. It's definitely yeah, it's pretty tricky, honestly, getting the voices to sound really distinct in the multi-point of view. I can definitely understand why not a lot of authors do that, but I don't know. I find it fun, especially with a big cast and different characters with different experiences and perspectives on the world and life, and it's interesting to see those differences when you go to their point of view in their chapters.
And try to make them all sound like different people who think, uniquely and speak uniquely. I don't know. I've read a number of. I've been getting better about reading a lot more concurrent books, and um, a number of them are from different points of view, and it is interesting. The ones I like the most are definitely the ones where the characters really do feel like true, real people,
Yeah.
versus which you can kind of tell the author might be um, blending the vibes a little bit because it's hard. It is kind of hard to try to get out of your own way of thinking and into someone that might think totally different from you, but that's the way the character's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, dimensionality.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I kudos to you. I applaud you for doing that because As I said, I have not been brave enough to do that yet.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to one point of view versus multi versus first person versus third person
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. And another thing I think that's fascinating, again, being a person who hasn't tampered with this yet, but when you write for authors who write multiple points of view, you can take your characters to totally different areas of your world
Yeah.
and see little snippets. But that's for me, again, that storyline splintering and trying to figure out how to weave the story. It just is like, wow, I wish my brain worked a little bit more like that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, that's partially why I wanted to have multiple perspectives because like sometimes they're at different parts of the world at the same time. So
Mhm.
you get to see more of this giant fantasy world or more sides to different characters in this giant cast as well. I think it gives a lot of leeway and different characters at different experience levels too, so you find out different information through these perspectives as well.
I love that. I love that. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so let me ask you, now that you have a book out
Mhm.
and you're working through the beta stage of your second one.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, have you done any book signings yet? Or are you wanting to do those in the future? I didn't know. I know, have you ever tampered with or tried one before?
I haven't tried one before, but there was talks of me doing a signing actually at the same bookstore that my book is being sold at.
Ooh,
So
that's
I'm
cool.
excited for that, and yeah, yeah, I definitely want to do more of them, especially as more I have more books out down the line. I
Mhm.
guess it's kind of hard to manage that and writing and editing and marketing and newsletter
Yeah,
and merch and all the
yeah.
other things we have to do.
Yes.
Yeah, so I haven't focused a lot on that because I've been busy with several other things.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I
guess yeah,
understand
author
completely.
life.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time I did a book signing. It's been a little while. It's just, but it is. It's so hard to spread all. You only have so much time a day, and you have to decide what you're going to value in what order, and be it actively writing a new book, editing what you have,
Hmm.
managing, the relationships you have with your betas and authors and all that, or you do marketing, or you do this and that and this, and then all of a sudden you're like, shouldn't I have been doing that? It's
Yeah, I totally get that.
and for those people who are not full time, you may be having a job or going through school or raising kids or whatever it is, and that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I work full time as well, so
Mhm.
it's hard to balance, yeah, my author life with my full time job and everything too. Sometimes it's just exhausting.
But
So, yeah.
that makes it even more impressive for people who are able to publish books and then maintain, everything else, all your other life's demands, because you got to put food on the table, you got to
Yeah.
turn the lights on and stuff. So you do what you need to do, but man, that's always impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how some people do it because, like, some people also have like kids and everything, and I'm and a full-time job and working as an author. I'm like, how do you guys do it? I respect them so much because somehow they can juggle all of it.
So what is your favorite time to write with your day-to-day schedule, since you work? So what time do you find to sneak
It
away
depends
at?
on which day it is. If it's during the weekday, I prefer after work, so maybe around like 8 p.m. or something after I'm done with dinner and working out and whatnot, and I'm settled
Mm-hmm.
down a bit more. Because sometimes it takes a bit to unwind from work, so I'd rather not write
Well, yeah.
like right away after being done with work. And then like on weekends, I often like to write in the mornings because I think that's when I'm the most creative. I would write in the mornings like with my full-time job, but I feel like once I get into it, it's gonna be really hard to stop. Yeah.
No, I understand. I right now, crossing fingers, knock on wood, I am maintaining the full life of an author slash artist. But even still, I'm a workaholic. So I get up, I'm starting to do, the marketing, and then I sit down and I start doing the active writing and moves into editing and marketing and marketing, and everything else
Yeah.
you need to do behind the scenes. And then all of a sudden I blink and it's the next day. But I've been fortunate to work to that point. And again, for me, when I look at everybody else who has those full-time jobs and everything else, more power to you. The fact that you're putting words on paper and turning them into magical realities, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure.
So yes, celebrate those moments. Celebrate those moments. So with your book in beta, do you have a tentative timeline for publication, or are you just going to take it as it goes and just make sure it's ready, and then you'll make, that decision at a later stage?
I think I would take it as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping to do yearly releases, so depending on when betas can get back to me and when I can get those revisions done, I was hoping to get a release by like this summer or fall. It might be closer to fall, but that's totally fine. I'm not like super like picky. I just want to get the book to be the best I possibly can, and if it needs more time, then that's totally fine.
Yeah. No, I think that's a smart way to approach things, especially earlier on in your writing when your career and you're trying to just figure out again the good timing for everything. I still am trying to figure out the good timing for things.
Yeah.
So every time I try to set like a hard goal, I'm always like feeling like I'm sprinting to try to, you know, get to it in time and making sure I'm not late on anything, which is like the scariest part.
Yeah.
You set a date and you don't miss it, or you miss it. Oh my god. So we're rounding the end of the hours. Let me ask you a couple things I like to always ask. Um, where can people follow you in general? Because I always try to post these when I repurpose this on YouTube. I'll post the links live down below. But in general, for anybody listening, where can people follow you? Obviously, you're on this platform. Where else?
Yeah, I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, so I have the same handle, author underscore Ellie, Elli. So yeah, you can find me there as well. I'm definitely the most active on here and Instagram. Those are like the two social medias that I focus on the most. So I try to post as much as I can. For TikTok, I often post like daily, so which is kind of exhausting, honestly. But
My,
yeah,
my
sometimes you have to do what you have to do for the algorithm.
Yeah, my trick is when I find gaps of time, and I've now niched them to like 2 times a week, but then I'll record bundles. I've given up changing clothes. I'm just like, it's the same shirt for like 15 videos, and that's fine. But I'll record them all at once and save them in drafts so then I can just post them each
Yeah,
day.
yeah, I often do that too, and I never even bothered changing clothes. I'm like, it's just me.
This is what you get for the next few days. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, you at least you get a post.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. No, I totally get that. And I can't remember if you have a website at this moment or a newsletter or not. I don't remember
Yeah,
if I.
my website is authorellie.com. I also have a newsletter, which I'm hoping to get the short story prequel set up
Ooh.
soon. I'm like more than halfway through writing it, so I'm hoping that'll be available for newsletter subscribers soon.
Fantastic. Yes. I had once thought I've made a goal. Once thought that I was going to do a new short story every year so I can add
Hmm.
that to my repertoire to then give a little bundle of short stories to my newsletter people, and the ones who have been around for a while, they still get some, new little gifts per se. But again, there's only so much time in the day, and I've kind of let that one slip. So that reminds me, I should probably come up with a new story.
Yeah.
before before 5 years. I should do that. But yeah, and then the other thing I always like to ask is there anything topic we haven't covered that you wanted to cover? Any questions you wanted to ask, or anything you specifically want people to know about you, yourself, your writing, that we haven't talked about?
Huh.
I know that's a
Not
big question.
sure. Yeah. Like I think you honestly came up with everything. Like like props to you for being able to come up with so many good questions.
I found
Yeah.
out doing these after a while, it becomes easier. Your brain's just now wired with the type of things to ask. I used
Oh
to
yeah,
start
that
my
makes
early
sense.
ones. I had like a questionnaire. I literally was like, "Here's a question for you."
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally would have done that as well.
It just comes with practice. Practice makes perfect. And the same thing with writing. I feel like the more you write, the better you get if you put,
Yeah,
your mind to it and actually dedicate it. So,
yeah,
mhm.
definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for coming out and chatting with me today. I'm glad this one worked far better than last
Yeah,
time. Because, again, if anybody didn't know what happened last time we tried to talk, we were having internet issues, and I don't know if it was my end or her end. I know my end was kind of glitchy that day. So, it was a little bit problematic, but this is normal. I like this.
yeah,
This is nice smooth talk.
yeah. I'm glad we didn't have any issues at all, and yeah, thanks for having me again after all those issues that were popping up left and right.
Nah, we're good. We're good. And anytime in the future you want to jump back into one of these, and if you want to talk when you release your second one or anything in between, if you're like, oh, let's just chat. I do these weekly, and I always love talking with another author live.
Yeah, for sure. I've been wanting to do more live talks as well because it's kind of fun going live and talking with followers and everything.
Oh yeah, and I love when followers have been posting. And we definitely had a couple people very chatty today because sometimes you'll get a day where just maybe it's the time, maybe it's the day, maybe it's everybody's mood. Who knows that it's very silent out there, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I can fill time, but it's always fun having people kind of chit chat too because we all want to learn from each other, and maybe you find new readers this way, or maybe you inspire another author. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I will let you go and have a fantastic afternoon towards evening on your
Yeah.
side of the world. And I'm going to go and unwind after work.
Yeah, for sure. Have a nice rest of your day.
You too. And I'll talk soon.
Yeah, sure.
Bye.
Bye.